offshore wind, solar. Dominion Energy is a leader in the clean energy transition. We're dedicated to providing reliable, affordable, safe, and clean energy as we support and invest in our communities. Dominion Energy is building a clean energy future. Actions speak louder. Welcome to Actions Speak Louder, shining a light on Dominion Energy projects and community support. I'm Peggy Fox. Dominion Energy is focused on building a clean energy future. We're doing that in several ways. First, by developing the country's largest offshore wind project. 27 miles off the Coastal Virginia beach, 2 wind turbines rising 600 feet into the air are already spinning, generating 12 megawatts of electricity. That's enough to power 3,000 homes. They're the test turbines for the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind project. They are demonstrating to the world that wind energy works well in the Atlantic, well enough to help greenlight construction of nearly 180 additional turbines that will fulfill the scope of the project. Today, you'll find out what's been learned from the first 2 turbines, from the installation to the energy being produced to the economic impacts. You'll also learn about other renewable energy projects, such as our expansion of solar and battery storage technology. First, let's take a trip out on the water at the Port of Virginia. It's there where you'll see what the offshore wind industry is going to mean to Virginia and the country.
It's a tremendous day out here on the water. My name is Kevin Carroll. I'm with Dominion Energy, and right now we are in what is the ports of Virginia. We're on the Elizabeth River. We're taking a cruise for IPF, which is a conference which is built to support, really the collaboration and working of the offshore wind industry. As you look around at the port infrastructure that we have here, obviously the ports here in Virginia have existed for decades, and they've been on the leading edge of innovation when it comes down to, being able to bring the industries to the United States.
Why is this port so well situated for the offshore wind project?
It's the physical aspect of the port. It's the natural deep water. It's the lack of overhead obstructions that truly make it a region which is ready to support offshore wind operations of all sizes. That's from the wind turbine installation vessels, that's from the delivery of components, and that's also for the smaller vessels, for the crew transport vessels, and also for the surface operation vessels. But what truly makes this region well poised to be able to support offshore wind operations is the people. It's the men and women who live and work here within the Commonwealth of Virginia. And that's from, our government in Richmond. That is also from our men and women here in the port, the Virginia Maritime Association, the Hampton Roads Alliance. It's our team here at Dominion Energy. People have been able to see the tremendous value that offshore wind has to be able to bring to this country. To be able to bring 2.6 gigawatts of energy into our grid with the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind commercial project is very incredible. It's enough power for 660,000 homes. And that's with no carbon emissions, that's with free fuel, which is obviously the wind. But it's also what it's going to be able to do for our job market, to create about 900 jobs during construction, up to 1,100 jobs during the operations. And that's not just for the Dominion employees who will be obviously taking care of the offshore wind turbines and making sure that we're delivering this clean energy to our consumers, but it's also from the supply chain. It's also from the port operations aspect of it, and it's also from the educational institutions who are going to be able to help grow this offshore wind industry for the United States. We are creating the first generation of offshore wind technicians, and I'm really excited to be a part of that and to be able to bring this industry to the United States.
What have we learned from the first 2 wind turbines?
For the first 2 wind turbines, we have learned a tremendous amount. The original 6 megawatt turbines, which are 27 miles offshore Virginia right now, the delivery of those components had to be done in Nova Scotia. So they were delivered to Nova Scotia and then brought on board. And that's where Dominion Energy really, for being very brave and stepping forward and taking part of this test project, was able to look and say, we really can't do that from an efficiency standpoint, from a safety standpoint. We need to be able to work this project here from within the port. And that's why I'm very proud to announce it's the construction for the first Jones Act compliant wind turbine installation vessel, which is taking place now down in Brownsville, Texas. So that vessel will be flying a U.S. flag. It will have U.S. mariners on board, and will be able to support our operations not just here in Virginia, but the first 2 projects they will work on will be 2 projects up north. The aspect for me, for being prior Coast Guard, also a prior merchant mariner, the fact that it will have a U.S. flag on it will be a tremendous point of pride for me, and I think it really should be for a lot of Americans. Dominion Energy really is on the forward edge of really taking hold of this industry and really making sure that we do it right.
My guest here in studio is John Larson, and he is the Director of Public Policy and Economic Development for Dominion Energy. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me here today.
So tell us, going back to the passage of the Virginia Clean Economy Act, where are we now in terms of getting those things in the policy done?
Well, I'll tell you, we've done a tremendous job of really kickstarting and rapidly advancing this transition to a renewable portfolio standard. So the Virginia Clean Economy Act calls for 16,000 megawatts of solar, 2,700 megawatts of storage, and 5,200 megawatts of offshore wind. And currently, we've got the 2,600 megawatts of offshore wind under development that you mentioned earlier. We've got over 6,000 megawatts of solar in development or operating, and we have plans for up to 4,000 megawatts of storage as we're going forward. So we've hit the ground running and are moving forward with those projects on just an ongoing basis.
It's a lot of different projects.
They are spread, the solar and storage are spread across the entire state. Obviously, the offshore wind's located 27 to 42 miles offshore.
Right, exactly. So look, talk about other initiatives that the company is working on to enhance our communities.
So, Dominion Energy takes great pride in being a fantastic partner with the communities in which we serve. So we've got a number of issues. First, I'll say continuing to provide safe and reliable power. Despite having over 60-some storm events over the past couple of years, we've been able to maintain fantastic reliability. But we're doing other things to even enhance that further. One I'd like to highlight is the strategic undergrounding program, in which we look at the lines that have the most outages. And from those outages, we can take those lines and put them underground. That takes away trees or car accidents. So it keeps that power on for those circuits better. And it lets us more rapidly restore power because we don't have to go work with them. To give you an idea, 4,000 miles will be buried. We're about halfway there now with almost 2,000 miles. Keep in mind, that's the length of the Appalachian Trail. So that's a lot of lines that we put underground so far.
A lot of people want to see us put all the lines underground. But this strategic underground initiative is not about aesthetics. It's not about, well, boy, we think those lines would look a lot prettier underground. It's really about, there's a data process that goes on, correct?
It's quite a thorough analysis. So it looks at what lines have the most frequent outages, and then how do we take and prioritize those so that those customers are served and improve that reliability for them, whether it's a business or their homes. But it goes through quite an analytical process.
And I know that it's not just it also has to do with the number of people it takes to repair an outage.
Yes.
And when you can reduce that, it helps a lot with getting the lights back on.
Yeah, and what we're able to do with that, Peggy, is instead of having to first fix that main tap line and then go to the service drop that comes to your particular home or business, now we don't have to spend the time doing that initial repair, so we can flood getting those connections straight to your house back on as quickly as possible.
You want to talk about battery storage?
Yeah, so battery storage, we've got 3 pilot projects right now located in different areas of the state. We've gone out with a competitive bid for 250 megawatts of storage this past May of last year. And we're moving forward with looking at procuring storage projects from third parties as well as developing our own. And again, those are spread across the state and looking at where they benefit the transmission and generation the best. So a lot going on with that.
And when you build out solar, you really need battery storage as well.
You really do.
Or renewable energy in general, right?
Any type of renewable energy. And solar and wind complement each other very well. Wind tends to be more prevalent at night and during the winter. which we don't have, as strong a sun during the winter here. And as you look at the summer, of course, the dog days this summer when you wish the wind would blow, but the sun's beating down on you. So they complement each other, but both of those are intermittent resources. So having that storage is critical to being able to provide the power at peak times. So when everybody goes home in the evening during the summer, they crank down the air conditioning, start the oven, start the dishwasher, start the washing machine, and you need that power. So it's important that we have that available.
Exactly. Can we talk a little more about CVOW and where we are there with the offshore wind project?
Yeah, so CVOW, and most people don't realize this is a decade in the making. So in 2013, we secured the lease for the wind energy area that the project will be constructed in.
Again, that's federal waters.
In federal waters.
And why is that a big deal? Because there is only one other offshore wind project in the country, and that is up in Rhode Island, but it's state waters, right?
And so, the big difference between a project and state waters, it just has to go through state approvals.
Right.
By going 27 miles offshore into the outer continental shelf, those are federal waters. So you have to go through a federal permitting process with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And they are really a coordinating agency for 23 other agencies to get all the federal approvals that you need. So, we got that lease, won the auction through BOEM, and started developing and doing some work. Well, in about 2019, we really ramped up the studies. That's environmental studies, geotechnical, geophysical studies, studies on what type of technology exactly we wanted to do. Started moving forward with that. We submitted our application to BOEM for the federal approvals. Really a little over a year ago, well, December of a year and a half ago, and moved forward with that. And we expect to get the initial draft environmental impact statement coming up here this summer. Then they'll review that and review the comments that come in, and we'll look for a final one, final notice on that in the summer of next year. Also, simultaneously, we're moving forward asking for state approvals as we're going forward. Expect to get that by the end of this year, so that by 2023, we'll be ready to move forward with starting the construction of the project.
So they're 27 miles out, these two turbines that we have spinning right now. And what have we learned from those two turbines? Because they started spinning last year, right?
Yeah.
Or the year before.
October, yeah, a little over a year now. October is when they began operating. So we've learned a tremendous amount. Everything from that permitting process, right? So we felt the prudent thing to do was start with these small two turbines. Nobody had been through that federal permitting process.
They're not small.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I've been out there.
They're the height of the Washington Monument, right?
They're not
so
small.
they're not
like
small.
500 feet tall.
Yeah.
From the water.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
So that's a really good point, I think, about smaller turbines.
Well, you say that because the next ones will be bigger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Much
600.
bigger. 800 feet tall.
800
feet tall. So these two turbines, we knew that nobody had been through the process. There was no supply chain to support the manufacturer of turbines and equipment. And nobody had done it before, and we knew technology was changing. So we went forward with that. We learned a tremendous amount during the contracting and installation of these turbines. And keep in mind, it was all done during the COVID pandemic, right? So we learned what we need to do as far as structuring our contracts for the larger project. We learned the techniques of doing the installation. And even during that installation, we conducted experiments, such as using a double bubble curtain to reduce the acoustic signature so that we don't impact marine mammals. So we even did experiments when we were putting those in.
All right, what is the double bubble curtain?
So that's
underwater?
Underwater.
Okay.
So there's a vessel, a boat that goes around the installation site and puts down 2 jets of bubbles.
Oh.
And what that does is offers a pretty significant acoustic reduction so that you don't disturb mammals and other aquatic species. And it will set the standard for other projects. The other thing we've done is share the information we've learned about permitting, the installation with the industry. So as the entire industry moves forward towards 30,000 megawatts of offshore wind, we're providing a lot of the base knowledge for those other companies to use.
And what have we learned about the efficiency of the turbines?
So, we had expected initially the efficiency to be right around the low 40%, and we have actually seen over the past year and a half that it's performing above that, up in the mid 40s. Now, let's be honest, that's a year and a half out of a 30-year life.
Things
so
change,
who
right?
says that the wind will continually be that strong? But we are very pleased with the production of those turbines.
Well, how long do the turbines last?
So they're planned to last 30 years for an operational life.
And then you replace them?
So, right now the requirements are that you would decommission the turbines. But 30 years is a long ways out, so who knows how things will evolve and what changes. Will you be able to repower them, or do you end up just decommissioning them and removing the structures, and then really working on beneficial reuses of all the components of the turbines?
Did what we learn about those turbines change the larger project that we're going to build? Give us any insight there?
So it really did. It gave us a lot of insight primarily into to how we need to structure the plan and project plan to install them, right? So we learned, here's how a European model works. Here's how things in the US work, so we can take the best of both worlds to get the lowest cost and most efficient installation of the project. So those were some of the key points that we gathered with that.
And how about the community? How is the community in Virginia Beach accepting the project?
So just tremendous support overall. And I can tell you that we've had thousands of meetings with communities and stakeholders and business groups and schools to share information about the program. And it's been pretty overwhelming, the support and what we've seen the community come out to stand by the company as we've moved forward with this project. The benefits of no carbon energy production, not having to purchase fuels, and the savings that come from that, and just the overall benefit, especially being a maritime community, of reducing the carbon footprint of the company.
One of the first things people ask is, where is it? Can I go see it? Can I go see them? And you can't see them from shore because they're so far out.
Right.
And was there a reason we wanted to? I know that it's federal waters, but I assume the wind is a lot stronger that far out.
So there's a couple of things. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management actually defines that wind energy area. So the company didn't define it. We were the successful bidder. But you are correct. The winds are much more prevalent and stronger the further offshore that you go. So it's a great location for the turbines to be placed. And I expect that you will see a lot of ecotourism out of the Virginia Beach boat operators to take people out to see the turbines.
Yes, and we'll be talking on another show about how there is lots of marine life and people like to go fish out there. So that's a whole different story. But let's talk about how we installed the turbines, because there is still no U.S. flagged ship, installation ship, but we're building one.
Yes, we are. We're building the Charybdis. It is one of the world's largest and the only Jones Act compliant vessel for wind turbine installation in the United States.
Now explain the Jones Act.
Let me explain the Jones Act. So there was a law that was passed in World War I where vessels that make port-to-port calls in the United States have to be U.S. built, U.S. flagged, U.S. owned and operated. So we are building that vessel, and it will be able to support the construction of the CVOW project. And actually, it already has charters for 2 other projects to our northeast.
Is that right?
So getting a pretty good backlog of that vessel, and it's capable of making that lift of 800 feet up into the air to install the nacelle and the blades on top of the tower for the wind turbines.
Fantastic. And it's being built in Texas.
It is. It's being built by Keppels in Brownsville, Texas. They were able to meet the requirements for the schedule that we needed for the vessel to be able to be constructed in time to support the CVOW project and other projects.
And when is that going to be? When will we start installing all the rest of them?
So in 2024, we'll begin a 3-year construction period for the offshore aspects of the turbines. So we'll put in about half the foundations during the spring to the fall of 2024. And put in some of the cables that connect the turbines to the substations. Then we'll pause because of the North Atlantic right whale migration season from the fall to the spring. We'll come back the next summer, erect the turbines on top of the first half of those foundations that we put in, and then put in the second half of the foundations and get the cabling in place and to the substations. And then that third year we'll come back in and put the remaining turbines up and get them fully connected to the grid. So we've got those 3 spring to fall periods to get the construction done.
Somebody asked me about the cable, the 27-mile long cable that brings the energy. That's pretty deep underground, isn't it?
It's 6 to 8 feet into the seabed, so it's pretty deep as far as that goes. And you want to do that for various environmental reasons, so that there's no impacts from the cables being there, but also ships. It's one of the largest ports on the East Coast, the Port of Virginia is. So you have vessels out there dropping anchors, those types of things, and you need it very deep enough so that there's no damage over to the cables.
You mentioned the Virginia Clean Economy Act earlier on, and there's some provisions in that about hiring and the supply chain. Yeah. What is Dominion Energy doing to support the supply chain for clean energy?
Yeah, so I'll tell you that a number of those meetings that we've had that I referenced earlier have been with businesses and business organizations, chambers of commerce, regional economic development authorities to help inform them as well as businesses that they serve of the opportunities that abound with offshore wind. So we started that education in December of 2020, and we'll continue doing that as we move forward with the project and that outreach. And so a key part of that is now that we've picked our major equipment suppliers for the project, we're working with them to identify the exact scopes of work that'll be done in Virginia. And then we'll have construction expositions so that businesses can come and meet those companies and bid on the work. And then for jobs, priority hiring for veterans, local workers, and workers from historically disenfranchised communities. And what we have done is really just flooded the schools, communities, community organizations. For the stage right now is to make people aware and generate interest. And then as we get to the point where in the next 6 months, people need to start training, to get those people to engage and get their training that's needed to be able to work in the offshore wind industry. Excellent. So the company has put tremendous amount of resources and time and effort into making that a success.
And how about on the solar side?
Solar side, same things going on. We're working on the solar, and that's a key part of a program we have called Just Transition. So as we shutter traditional fossil plants, we've already retired 770 megawatts of oil-fired, and we have coal-fired units that will be retiring.
We've retired a lot of coal-fired,
and we've already retired a lot, but some of the remaining ones will be retired. What we'll do is move those workers over to working in renewable energies, whether it be solar, storage, and the different types of controls that go with that. So that's a pretty active program that we have as well.
And I know we're doing a lot of partnerships with some of our solar facilities as well. I know Arlington County had one that is being built in Pennsylvania, I believe, and others like that.
Yeah, in fact, there have been some really great opportunities to have that kind of good public-private partnership to bring the value of renewable energy to the communities, where it's not as easy to say, put a large solar installation in Arlington, right? It's just the
land's too expensive.
And it's just frankly not available. So it's worked very well to collaborate.
To a lot of people say, why can't you just put the solar on people's roofs? Give us a quick answer for that.
Yeah, well, number one is there's usually not enough roof space, and a lot of roofs, frankly, weren't designed to be able to put solar on top of them, especially some of the larger commercial buildings, right? So it was never envisioned that you would put solar on top. And so there's a lot of challenges, and the property owner has to agree, and the roof has to be in good enough shape. So
and a lot of buildings have air conditioners on top.
They do. So it creates a lot of dynamics that go with that.
Right. All right. Well, it's an exciting time at Dominion Energy, and we are building a clean energy future.
We are. Tremendous.
So I very much appreciate you coming in and giving us a roundabout on exactly where we are and where we're headed.
All right. Thank you.
Good
Glad
stuff.
to be here today,
John Larson, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it very much. And thank you so much for watching Actions Speak Louder. We hope you join us next time to learn more about how Dominion Energy is working toward a sustainable future while supporting our customers and communities. Be safe.